Welcome to Numb Bills Fan Podcast. If you don't already, please subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Google Play, anywhere you find your podcast. Don't forget, numbbillsfan.com has all of our content.
Welcome to Numb Bills Fan Podcast for episode 120. I'm your host, David Palermo. Find me on Twitter at Numb Bills Fan, Instagram, Numb Bills Fan as well, and Facebook, Numb Bills Fan. Obviously, you heard that in the intro, but make sure you check out numbbillsfan.com. Don't forget, we also have some shirts for sale. Very limited run, $19 shipped. If you want any Bills collectibles up there, I threw up some stuff on my Etsy store up there. Again, Numb Bills Fan on Etsy, so please check that out. And lastly, we're brought to you by punchdrunksports.com. Great podcast, three guys, regulars at the Alley Comedy Store. Ari Shafir from This Is Not Happening, on Comedy Central, if you've ever seen that show. Great show. If not, just go on YouTube. Comedy Central has a channel. Check it out. Great. You won't be disappointed. You can thank me later. I won't charge you. Also, Sam Tripoli, great dude, has his hands in a lot of things. Has a cool little new conspiracy podcast, also on Punch Drunk Sports, and also does the Naughty Show, stand-up comedian Sam Tripoli. Awesome dude. Thank you for hooking us up with this. And lastly, Jason Tebow. You might have seen him on the Red Zone Network. Good dude, another comedy guy, and he just recorded a comedy album, so I believe. So check him out. And, so at Punch Drunk on Twitter, punchdrunksports.com. And if you haven't, check out podcast number 118 with Kevin Elliott from the Punch Drunk Sports Podcast Network. He does a sports podcast called Barroom Heroes, and he's an LA Dodgers fan. He's a fan of LA. He's from LA, and we had a great podcast talking about, especially if you're a Bills fan tuning in, what's it like to have a team move on you, and what's it like to have it come back? And they bring Jeff Fisher? Do you really care now? So that was a cool podcast. And also, 119, if you want to know what I think about the NFL rule changes with celebrations, hey, have at it. The roster changes, everything with the new rules. So there's other things in there too. Just read the description and make sure you subscribe to us on wherever you get your podcasts from. iTunes, Stitcher, wherever. Please subscribe to us. If you send me screenshots on Numb Bills Fan or wherever the hell, hey, I will put you at the priority list for any contest next up in line. So please, again, numbbillsfan.com. And on the line with us now, I would have to say my favorite guest of all time, every time, is Erik Turner from cover1.net. And we are here to break down pretty much our thoughts on the front office. I mean, the dust is settled. Erik, what's up, man? Tell us what you got.
What's going on, Dave? Thanks for having me on, man. Take a breath. That was quite the intro, man. That was long-winded, bro. You all right?
Dude, I'm 100% Italian. Can you tell?
I'm sure you're on the other end, waving those hands and, trying to get everyone's promotion out there, because that's what you're good at. And, you have me on the podcast today to, kind of talk about the front office and the changes that have occurred since, the off season began. And I'll tell you what, man, I'm pretty excited about this front office, Dave. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I think so. Seems like they're really getting the air out of the dough. I like that they gutted. You actually got me on this. You really like that they fired the entire scouting staff, right? Or not? I mean, you don't. I don't want to say you liked, but you understand.
Right. I understood the moves, but I was kind of with you. At the beginning, as far as continuity and keeping, Whaley. I was closer to on the fence than leaning to one side or the other about keeping Whaley in this front office. But when they decided to clean house, I think that was the best bet, to do it from top to bottom. And regardless of the timing, I think the timing worked out well for us, and we were able to get some really big names to assemble almost what most pundits are calling an all-star front office. So I thought the timing was odd initially, but after letting it settle in, letting my emotions die down, and kind of stomaching the moves that happened, and the fact that people's lives were changed, and there were firings, that once that settled in and start putting the front office together, I was happy to see the names they brought in, Dave.
Yeah, I can't blame you. You know what feeling I have, and obviously if you haven't yet, go on cover1.net. my one and done article for now. I actually wrote an article about pretty much backing up Doug Whaley in Eye for Talent. You know, you guys titled it Eye for Talent, period. And the farther I get away from getting rid of Doug Whaley, the more I look at it like it's not Eye for Talent, period. And actually, I'm probably going to do a follow-up article on this right now. I mean to tell you. I'm not even pulling that out of my ass for real.
All right.
I really mean it. Like, it should be Eye for Talent, comma, if anything, right? Because we've talked about this many times on this podcast. You know, sometimes you max out at your job, and now you got to start hiring people. And you might not be good at your job, but you're good. You know what I mean? You might be good at your job, but you're not good at managing people. I mean,
right.
I can't tell you how many people come to work with me and they don't work for me anymore, and they work for somebody else doing perfectly fine. So, you know, it's like that happens, and I think with Bean in there from Carolina, I mean, he seems like he's easy to work with. He's willing to make all these appearances. He's willing to really put the organization on his shoulders if he needs to. But I will be honest, getting rid of Whaley was kind of like how I felt like getting rid of Rex, which was like, well, I guess, why not? You know what I mean? If you guys really think so, there must be something through 3 coaching staffs where I guess I'm on board. And I always talk myself into these decisions. I always do, Eric, every time. And I'm kind of like, I don't want to see people lose their jobs at all. At the same time, I like to see other people breed new opportunities.
Right. And that's what's great about this staff is, you know, there's a good amount of experience, you know, guys that have held, you know, the top end positions in front offices, guys that are, you know, are hungry and trying to work up the ladder. And honestly, every single one of these guys from, you know, the area scouts to and the pro scouts to the top at Brandon Bean's position, these are guys that want to move up the totem pole. You know, they want to promote, they want to have that forward mobility. And when you have guys in positions on every level that, you know, want and have that ambition to move up into the big chair of GM or more, you know, it's going to breed not only competition on the field, but competition in the front office. And by that, I mean, you're going to work your hardest every day. You're going to push each other every day as a team in the front office to make the best decisions, do the best scouting reports, do the best evaluations. And, you know, that's just going to breed a good atmosphere. And it should definitely, you know, turn out onto the field. It should definitely show on the field in the next couple of years as far as talent that's going to be brought in from this front office.
Yeah, I feel the same way because, man, I'm human. I get complacent, dude. Like, I will get real complacent at my job. We all do. Yep. And I feel that's a problem with maybe what's going on and with scouting because there's some guys taken and you're like, and they're from the SEC a lot of times, you know? And it's like, man, how are you missing on these guys?
Right.
At the same time, I'll always say, well, you got to develop players, and you can't develop them changing the staff 2 to 3 years every time, you know? So, I mean.
You nailed that. That's exactly correct, man. It's a team game, you know, not just on the field, but in the front office, between the front office and the coaching staff, you know? It's the front office's job to find that talent, acquire that talent. And you know, they're at a certain development point stage in their careers. And now it's up to the coaching staff to develop those players and get the most out of them. So having a guy like Brandon Bean lean on, you know, very experienced guys like Joe Shane and, you know, Brian Gain and even, you know, on down as far as the scouting and personnel guys go, you know, being able to lean on guys like that have experience in the league, but also, you know, there are connections between this staff, you know, over the years, and of course, right from the top, Brandon Bean and McDermott. So all that rapport, that experience, all that's just, it's going to be a great atmosphere in that front office. And again, I think it's just going to breed competition. I think it's just going to bring out the best of everybody.
So with Brandon Bean, when they hired Brandon Bean, I went on your podcast and we talked about it. His presser wasn't out yet. And, you know, I was kind of like, all right, well, they went Brandon Bean. Yeah, I really wanted the dude from Kansas City. That was kind of the guy I liked. I love the whole
Me too. I was
Andy
high on
Reid.
Beach. Yep.
You know, What are your thoughts of Brandon Beane? I mean, like right off the bat when they hire him, and now where have you settled and you've heard him talk, and sometimes when people talk, you get sold on them, and that's definitely happened with me.
No, I mean, I think it was a safe bet, and by safe, a lot of times people think that's a negative thing. I don't think that's bad at all. Again, I just kind of alluded to it. Having that relationship and that trust in each other between McDermott and Beane. And I find it hard to believe. I know, this was put to bed, this narrative, this story is put to bed about, prior, like during the draft when we made our picks, a few picks ahead of the Panthers, we were taking a lot of the same positions. I find it hard to believe that Beane really didn't have any type of contact with McDermott since he took the position as a head coach for the Bills. Because, I mean, being as close as they were when they were in Carolina, going on their runs together on trips and stuff like that, I just find it hard to believe that they didn't keep in contact and at least didn't shoot the breeze about guys that, each of their teams maybe needed. I mean, not trying to give away intel, from between the Panthers and Bills, but just kind of, feeling each other out as far as the draft class goes. Because, again, I know Whaley and a lot of those scouts led the draft, but McDermott had to have an idea, had an inkling about what was bound to happen after that draft. So he had to also count on people that he knew around the league, whether it be scouts, GMs, wherever, to kind of get an idea, of guys that are going to be drafted in that draft class. So I find it hard to believe that they didn't have some kind of relationship before, or discussion at least, in regards to those players.
Let's be real. I'd be talking about a lot of dirty shit if I'm on a run with my dog. You know what I mean? I'm just saying, like, a lot of things are going down, and we're talking about what we're going to do and big plans. Hey, man, what you meant, man? Oh, what's that, dude? Man, imagine this. We're in our office, and you're like, GM, come on, you got to think that way. Right. And they both got this whole Homer, we're Family Guy thing going on. They got the whole PR thing good, and that's what they want, even if it is fake or not. It seems like that's who they are. It seems like good guys. And I like it. I think it's great to have a front office that is just hungry. You know what I mean? Right. Like, they have no choice but to prove it. And now it ain't just on the coaches. And I will say, though, who was the person? I don't know. Maybe it was like an erroneous lock-on-4 report. Wasn't there a report out there like, shoot, within a couple weeks of McDermott getting the job, that they were angling to get, dudes from Carolina in the front office? Remember that? Like getting rid of Whaley.
Yeah.
And I don't know who reported that, but whoever that is should get a gold star, like 5 of them, because
they were right.
I mean, could it have gone down any more exact? Yeah,
and I think honestly, I can't remember who came up with that story, but I think it's also kind of common sense because, like I said, rapport, relationships. These guys have been in the league for many years, so they've come into contact with many people, across different organizations, and you're gonna cling to people. You're gonna continue relationships with people that share the same beliefs, philosophies, and whatnot as far as scouting goes and evaluating players. And how to build a team. So I'm not too surprised about that report. And honestly, I think it's one of those things you could throw that against the wall, and it's probably going to stick more times than not when it comes to NFL and the relationships that are built.
You really think so, huh?
Yeah.
I don't know who to trust when I hear these reports, like at all, like ever.
Yeah, it's hard, man. You just got to take it for what it is and just wait for the dust to settle. Kind of like, our emotions when it comes to draft and stuff like that. You just got to let things fall into place. It's something to talk about. It's commentary to talk about. It's, time. It's stuff you can fill podcasts with, newspapers, media, whatever with. But you got to also just keep it in perspective that, let it settle in. And I don't think it's a surprise that Beane was brought over. It was going to be some kind of relationship he's had with McDermott, whether it be would have been Veach over in Kansas City, or they were going to have some kind of relationship, especially after the fact, because we did all these wholesale changes in the front office after the draft. So the coach was already hired. So, normally you like to see it out the other way around, but the coach is already hired. So when an owner's trying to bring in the front office personnel, he's more than likely in this situation, and it's exactly what happened, is that they're going to have some type of relationship prior. So
100%, and I like that. I like that. Because you obviously want to work with whatever's really, I want to say, going to have the strongest relationship you could have with people. Because, man, I want to go to bat for my dog. I keep saying dog on this podcast. Jeez, I want to go to bat for the guys. That's just what I want to do for my team. So I had a question for you. You shot me over this photo on cover1.net, and pretty much you made, what would you call this, like a family tree just about? Like an order? I don't...
Yeah, it's just a chart of the front office, and actually I haven't gotten a chance to update it yet, but it just starts from the top with, GM Brandon Beane, and then, there's two houses to a front office, and that's usually the college scouting, who are guys that are usually on the road 200 plus days a year, scouting college players. They're the ones that are doing background checks and deep dives on players as far as the college players go. And then you have the pro scouting side, and that's the part of the scouting staff that does advanced scouting. So they'll scout, up to 4 games of the upcoming opponent, find out, different tendencies that the coaches, the offensive or defensive coordinators have, or personnel packages and all that good stuff. Kind of the jazz that I do on a weekly basis during the season. That's something I love doing, just from having coached before. So, there are two houses to this chart, and if you want to check it out, it's at cover1.net, and you go to the menu and you'll click front office and you'll see it. And again, I do have to update it still. We did fill a few more positions, but kind of gives you an idea on who reports to who and what side of the house each of these scouts, are on, because this is something that's, as of the last couple of years, not many people paid attention to. Besides the GM, not many people knew what an area scout does, who they were, where they're traveling, what area they're in charge of. So this scouting stuff has definitely gotten a lot more into the limelight the last few years. So it's good to see, and I figured that having a chart like this for Bills fans, it would be cool to have on the site.
I think so too, because there's some big names on this list. You're talking the senior college scout Dennis Hickey. That's it. Isn't it the dude that was a GM in Miami, or am I out of my mind?
Absolutely, yeah. I think it was in 2000. It was under. It was when Parcells and Ireland were in charge over there, and then I think they let Ireland go, and the Hickey kind of stepped in for I think it was a 2014, 2015 season, and and that's the thing. Like right now, when you're looking at this chart, he's down at the bottom as a senior college scout, but he's towards the end of the bottom of the totem pole, but he has so much more experience than just an average, national scout or area scout, and that's what I'm saying. Like he's at the bottom, with a wealth of wisdom, and he wants to move back up. He does. Why else would he take this job? He knows there's going to be, this staff that they put together in the front office are guys that are going to, want to move out into bigger positions. So there are going to be opportunities to move up the chain.
100%. And what's, you just said it, Bill Parcells. Hello.
Yeah.
Can you say help set the standard, since, you know what I mean? Probably after Walsh, you would say. I don't know if Bill Walsh is really a scout guy, but he's definitely like a big innovator in the NFL who loved Trent Edwards and, knew who Joe Montana was and stuff. He's kind of a big deal with players. So it's like you look at Bill Parcells, okay, well, Bill Belichick, everybody underneath. You got to be kidding me. Bill Parcells need to come to Buffalo. Where's Bill Parcells? Like, what's he doing now? He needs to finish the tour.
And that's what's great about these guys, Dave. Like, when you're coming from the Bill Parcells type tree, and I'm talking not the coaching side, but the scouting side. When you're coming from organizations like that or coaches like that that are established, these, in scouting, there's a certain language that each organization speaks. Pittsburgh has a certain language they use to describe players, and Dallas the same way. So every organization, every front office has a certain linguistics to scouting, and so guys like Hickey that are coming over, guys like Gain that have a wealth of experience scouting, these types of moves they're bringing a system with them. And even from the top, Brandon Beane, learning under Dave Gettleman in Carolina, you're going to have a lot of language that needs to be translated between all of this experience and scouts in this organization. So that's the number one thing going on probably right now that, the draft is over and these guys are kind of starting from scratch again. Of course, trying to pick up free agents, but they're trying to come up with a collective language to use for scouting from here on out for the next few years. Because that's something, when Whaley left, that, his system, what he brought over from Pittsburgh and what he learned, while he was here under Nixon and whatnot, all that stuff is probably out the door. There's a new language being spoken. And so that's probably the big piece going on, a big thing going right now at One Bills Drive.
Wasn't there something with the I sound so confused. This is kind of old news by the time I'm doing this podcast about this. I want to wait for more guys to settle in, especially the scouts, because they brought a couple guys back. So what were your thoughts on the guys that they brought back that were on the staff before? Because I forgot who the one guy is. Wasn't it Calvin Fisher? I think they're
right. He was one of Whaley's top lieutenants.
Yeah, I like that guy, man. He's, again, another guy who seems to know what the hell he's talking about.
Yeah, I mean, he was good at his job, but again, I think cleaning house of him was good because, I mean, you don't know all these leaks that were happening and all that. Like, you just don't know if there's a mole there. And I know they brought in some, brought back some of the pro scouts and Gerald Dixon and some of the area scouts too, like Don Majeski and whatnot. But, starting over as best you could was the best bet. And who knows, maybe they brought these guys back because, I mean, we are late in the game as far as front office goes, and trying to scrape the bottom of the barrel at this point would probably be hard. Maybe they wait till next year and, let these guys that they had, brought back. Maybe they let those guys go and try to bring in new blood. I mean, it's still, I don't think it's done. I think it's still going to be a transition in the next year or two.
I agree. I mean, it's just kind of sucks. There's guys that you just, you grow to like because you get to know them. I mean, I even thought, like Jim Manos. Man, I thought I really liked the guys that they picked up, the scouts in the previous terms. But if you pay attention to the guys that Doug Whaley brought in, those guys are the ones that really stick out to me. Mm-hmm. And he would bring them on to kind of, especially around, obviously, draft time, you kind of build a little relationship with these people. So you kind of hope that those guys that you got to know and like get brought back. So, I mean, it's good to see that a few guys got brought back, good for their families and stuff. But I just hope they get this right. And there was something where I thought that, wasn't there going to be some cross-training duties or something with, like, the coaches are actually going to, like, scout pro personnel a little bit or vice versa? Like, I think if you're, like, scouting the next team for the next day. Am I making any sense at all?
You are, and you may also
I forgot what department that is doing.
You may also be confusing it, amongst the college and pro side, because that's something they like to do. Is they, sometimes you're not on the road as a college scout. Maybe as an area scout, there's a lull in the season, and you're not, ball's not being played right now. So maybe this is the time where the pro side is actually scouting our future opponents and, what changes they're making personnel wise. And you're going to have some of those, college scouts kind of jumping in and learning their side of the pro side of the house. So that's always a good thing to do. Cross training like that, because not only, again, you're not just training guys to move up, up the chain. You're also you can also train guys to move laterally, so from one side of the house to the other. And the more knowledge you have about both sides, the more hands that you can have on duty to scout free agents. Like right now, we're still scouting free agents on a daily basis. So I'm sure some of those college scouts side, guys from that side are helping out with the pro side, right now, trying to find free agents who could come in and compete.
I'm clueless, man. Thank you so much for clearing that up.
No, that's fine, man. Look, Dave, you're not completely wrong, because then you think about how McDermott started his career, and he started in the scouting side of things. So you're not wrong. I just
thought he mentioned that like the coaches were going to be, they're looking ahead at future opponents, or the scouting staff, the pro personnel side is also looking ahead at future opponents. I think they're like kind of like, it almost sounds like with the extra time that these guys have, they're like doubling down to catch up. Does that make sense? It doesn't seem like these guys on McDermott's staff has. And with Brandon Beane, I'll say too, it seems like they don't have any wasted time, like at all. You hear about McDermott putting on like the team's practice tape from last year. Imagine if you're some of these guys and, hey, what happened last year? You lie to the dude's face and he already looked at the tape. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, guys. Stop.
I mean, this is a full-time job, and that's the thing. And that's what's great about now that scouting, not just from the general manager standpoint, but these guys are getting the recognition that that's deserved, because these scouts, especially the lower level scouts, they're not getting paid that much, and they're busting their tail every day, and you don't see them in the limelight. You may see Brandon Beane in the media or in press conferences, but when it comes to these scouts, they're not making that much, and it's a grind, man. It really is. And that's why, like, after draft season, like, I had to take some time away, just because it's a grind every day. You're watching hours and hours upon film, and these guys, they're not just watching film. They're on the road talking to these guys. They're meeting families, they're meeting friends, they're meeting coaches. It's a tedious job, man, and they're away from their families. So yeah, I mean, it is nice to bring back some of these guys, because their families aren't uprooted. And it's always good to have that, and there is some kind of continuity and some kind of working relationship with these guys that have been here. So it is definitely a good thing to have in the organization now. So
I think the word grind for scouts is really like an understatement, because it's one thing to be like 23, 24 and going on these college campuses and shoot the shit with these kids' friends. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it's another thing to like have that job for 30 years and like not look like a swindler or like some creep and be like, hey man, heard your friend Johnny out there was drinking last night. Like, yo, dude, no. You know what I mean? And I almost feel old saying that. And, it's like, whoa.
It's a young man's game. It is. Scouting's a young man's game, and a lot of people are, kind of joke with me like, "Hey, man, you gonna get into scouting?" And yeah, I'm doing it. I'm going to scouting school at the Scouting Academy and all that, and I love it. Don't get me wrong, but I'm an old man when it comes to scouting. And I'm 34 years old. There's no way I'm gonna become a scout right now. I just do it because I love it. So, like for example, like the Milano video I put out at Cover One.
Right.
I mean, that video of I watched 7 games, broke down obviously 7 games. Obviously, you got to take notes to do evaluations on the guys. And then, of course, cutting up the film and doing the video portion of that's a whole nother thing. But, I mean, that took about 47 hours worth of work over the course of 3 weeks. So it kind of puts it in perspective on what these scouts are doing. These guys have portfolios on just one player. I mean, they know everything from top to bottom, because these players are an investment for these organizations. So, organizations are depending on these scouts. Guys that, again, are away from their families a lot, aren't getting paid a lot, are grinding every day, and that are doing it really for the love of the game and passion for evaluating players, because, again, they're not getting paid what a Brandon Beane or, Sean McDermott's getting paid.
Exactly. And, I mean, again, you talk about these guys that have been in the organization forever. I mean, I can build resentment with somebody over like a napkin. So I can't imagine like working in the same joint forever and having to deal with this crap and having the team lose and people think that you saw it. I mean, I think it's one of the hardest jobs ever, like you're saying. So a lot of credit to them. So I mean, you're pretty satisfied. What do you think about the assistant general manager? And we'll probably wrap with that, because he's from the Texans and he was very, very well sought after. In fact, he interviewed for the job.
Yeah, he's, again, when it comes to experience, he's one of the more respected, personnel guys across the league, which is why he interviewed, for several jobs. And to have him run the pro side of the house and teach, the director of pro personnel, Malik Boyd, and the pro scouts that they brought in and brought back, Again,
Brian Gain, by the way, I should have
Brian Gain, establishing that language, establishing that base, that foundation for the future. That's what's going to make this organization, end that drought. So, and these guys laid the groundwork. I mean, Brandon Beane's going to get most of the credit, especially because of the staff he put together, the front office he put together, and roster he's going to put on the field. But honestly, when it comes to, the meat and potatoes, the grinders, the guys that are going to lay the foundation for the Bills to eventually, end this drought, it's going to be guys like assistant GM Joe Shane, VP of player personnel Brian Gain, that actually transform this organization. So we're going to have to keep an eye on these two guys because they're going to be fast movers. They're going to be, GMs sooner than later.
I agree 100%. Wow, I just dropped my phone. Cool. So I agree 100%. And again, I think this whole staff roll out the dough since McDermott, get the air out, main theme, no messing around. That's like it's so common sense, but really everybody wonders like what's been going on One Bills Drive, Bills Drive, and it's like I don't know either, Right. So I'm glad to see that they're making moves, they're taking their time, and so as far as the front office goes, I think we're set for this podcast. So Erik, thank you again for joining us, and really quick, tell us what you got. You mentioned a Matt Milano video. You just had a podcast recently. I mean, take the floor for a minute or two if you want.
Right. Well, you can find all of our content for Cover One at cover1.net. You can find me on Twitter at Cover1Bills. I dropped the Matt Milano video today. It's a doozy. Like I said, it took me about 47 hours to do. That's, watching 7 games, breaking down the film, editing, cutting up the film. It takes a long time, so go ahead and take a look at that. It shows the different roles that he was asked to carry out in Boston College's defense, and it's something similar to what McDermott had in Shaq Thompson over in Carolina. So go ahead and check that out. I'll have a pair of videos actually dropping here in the next couple of days. I started the Why It Worked series, which is me going through every touchdown that the Bills scored last season, kind of breaking down the plays and how things went down. And then I'll have Rod Streeter video, the wide receiver that the Bills brought in, who's coming in to compete for, obviously a depth position at the receiver position. So I'll have a video of him coming up soon. So definitely get to all of our social media platforms, and you can find our content pretty much anywhere. And Dave, I appreciate having me on.
Yeah, best podcast ever. And to everybody else out there, please don't forget numbillsfan.com, cover1.net. Erik has a podcast. Subscribe to it on iTunes. Like, really, I listen to it all the time. It's great. You want a Peterman breakdown, watch it. I actually do mega bong rips and go on YouTube and watch his videos and take notes. Like, that's really what I do.
It'll definitely keep you busy. I mean, there's enough videos on our YouTube channel that
I
definitely keep you busy for hours.
Erik, man, thank you so much.
No problem, Dave. I'll talk to you soon, buddy.
All right, bud. I'll call you later.
Yeah.
See ya. All right, so that's Erik at cover1.net. Don't forget numbillsfan.com, and please subscribe to us if you don't. Also, punchdrunksports.com. Throw them a follow at Punch Drunk. We are part of the Punch Drunk Sports Podcast Network. And also cover1.net, cover1.net, cover1.net. And lastly, don't forget, if you want a shirt, you want to support the podcast, help throw money towards the server space, please, Numb Bills Fan, Etsy. If you know what Etsy is, throw it in your search. Go on our website, numbillsfan.com. You'll see the shirts. Click right there, and you'll click through where you can purchase, add it to a cart. I also have a few collectibles for sale, just some glad stuff, a lot more stuff coming. I just want to try it out. And I do group packaging. So if you're ordering a few shirts, just send me a message on the side, and we could work something out to save on shipping, whatever you want. So thank you again. Don't forget, if you don't subscribe, at NumbBillsFan everywhere, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Have a good one.